We sat in the chambers as demotion delegation took the floor. We of the Demotion Federation have gathered on this day to formally declare war on the Terran Alliance. An audible gasp filled the chamber from the many delegates in the room. There had been no provocation. The Demotions were a powerful militaristic society and had often decided to expand their empire by absorbing weaker ones. The Terrans' lead delegate stood up, wide-eyed. "We've done nothing. We don't want war with you. Think about all the lives that will be lost," he protested. "Humanity is weak, too weak to defend its territory. So it is only right that we take it," the Demotion said smugly. "Please, don't do this," the human pleaded one last time. That was 6 years ago. What followed was one of the most brutal wars in galactic history. Entire worlds burned as atrocities mounted. Billions were either killed or displaced, and the rest of the galaxy could only watch in horror. To the surprise of everyone, it wasn't the Demotions that were responsible for most of these acts. The Demotion offensive had been blunted only 6 months into their campaign. Their initial blitz was devastating. They had wiped out entire colonies, sparing no lives in their path, but somehow the Terrans had held their own and began to push them back. Within the next year, they had forced their way into Demotion territory. The Terran offensive was vicious. When they first landed on the outer planets of the Demotion realm, they shot or bombed anything they deemed combat-capable. The civilians were quickly rounded up into squalid holding areas. Some were merely executed on the spot. As they plunged deeper into enemy territory, their tactics became even more brutal. If a planet was too well fortified, they wouldn't bother with ground assaults, instead choosing to bombard the entire planet, devastating the biosphere for generations. As the war drew towards its end, humanity had become unrecognizable. They were no longer the peaceful people that had joined the Galactic Council who spoke of trade deals and research agreements. Instead, they had become monsters. They bombed entire planets, wiped out refugee convoys, and no longer took prisoners. The ones they had already taken were publicly executed in a mass execution that was broadcast across the galaxy. It had become clear that this was no longer retribution. This was genocide. When the Terran fleets had reached the Demotion home system, a peace accord was called. The Demotion delegation waited nervously for the Terrans to arrive, but rather than sending an ambassador, the Terrans had sent in a general. He entered the chamber and glared at the Demotions with unbridled hatred. "Make this quick," he snapped as he sat at the table. The Demotion's lead delegate stuttered a bit as he began to speak. "We, of the Demotion Federation, hereby wish for terms of surrender." The last word clung to his throat as he forced it out. The Demotions hadn't lost a war in almost 8 centuries, and it was clear the shock was still present. "We will not accept your surrender," the human said with a smile as he leaned in. "You should have listened to the ambassador 6 years ago. It wasn't the lives of our people he was trying to save. It was yours."